Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Town Centre Action Plan session. This is our fifth session on heritage and tourism. We've held 4 previous sessions, one on 20-minute neighbourhoods, one on place, one on NPF4, and last week we had one on climate. So a big welcome to everybody who's joined today. The Town Centre Action Plan is known as the New Future for Scotland's Towns, and it is a guiding framework in the implementation of the actions for the town centre. We're hoping to have that launched next month, early April, and begin work on engagement across all stakeholders and key bodies in terms of landing that very soon. This will provide us with an opportunity to encourage people back to our local places and really start to exploit some of the key policy framework and activities that are embedded within that review. All the points and discussions from the sessions that we're hosting, including today, are fed back to our colleagues at Scottish Government, and these help to shape policy affecting our towns. At the end of the session today, there'll be an opportunity to have a question and answer session with all of our key speakers and give us a chance to explore things in a bit more detail. But I'm delighted today to be joined at the session with 4 key colleagues. We have Dr. George Finlater, Head of Community and Economic Development at Historic Environment Scotland. We have Caroline Warburton, Regional Director for the East of Scotland at VisitScotland. Both George and Caroline will discuss the impact of heritage and tourism on our towns and places. And again, we'll have a chance to Q&A. We'll be then followed by Nicola Johnston and Jennifer Caswell. Nicola's a project manager at MyConnex, our commercial partners on the Scotland Loves Local programme. And Jennifer Caswell is a team leader at Dundee City Council. They will share with us the Scotland Loves Local gift card programme and how the programme can positively impact on towns and local economies. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, and without further ado, I'll hand over to George.
Thanks very much, Kimberly. I think today I've been told I'm going to be Chris Whitty, and I'm going to ask a colleague to say next slide, please. But thank you very much for inviting me along today. Really happy to speak to you all about sort of, it's billed as tourism as heritage, but you'll appreciate I'm going to put heritage first in this as well. So to talk a little bit more about the connection of the two of them and the sort of work that we are doing ourselves at Historic Environment Scotland, but also working with others to sort of, promote heritage, but also protect it at the same time as well. So next slide, please. Just a wee bit of an overview, just a wee bit about our own organisation, a little bit sort of about heritage tourism itself, and the approaches for sustainability leading into sort of responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, and some of the work, how we're approaching that within our own organisation. And then some of, I've said of HES's work, but where we're working with partners as well. And it's not all tied around towns, it's about places and how we're working with communities in that way. So just that's a kind of general overview that we'll do today. Next slide, please. Just a bit of background to myself. I'm an archaeologist by training, but I've had a long number of years working in development in parts of the world where this gentleman is from, in Jordan. So very early exposure and working with communities, places, developing areas as well. And I'm part of, I head up a small team within Historic Environment Scotland. There's really, as it says, I think, related to community and economic development, and it's really trying to support communities and organisations across Scotland to sort of use heritage in all sorts of ways to attract new investment. So that's kind of the team that we're in. We're within external relations and partnerships, which is one of the core directorates of the organisations. I have a small team of economic development officers, community officers, volunteer officers as well that support that corporate approach. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of corporate stuff and the context to the work that we undertake and where you can see our main priorities. And I think, obviously you'll know us as the people that keep open properties. We provide advice, we're in planning, we keep we support local authorities and others in their historic environment stuff. But I just wanted to point out that, major part of our corporate plan is really to support the economy and also to support the creative and vibrant areas, so feeding into learning, education, a lot of that. And I just wanted to kind of stress the context of how we are approaching a work within tourism, etc. Yes, it is about the attraction model, and I'll talk about that a little bit how we are set up as well, but is very much focused around that, how to work with communities and how to create better places as well. So just to note the context of that within the corporate priorities. Next slide, please. A little bit about ourselves. I think looking at some of the names on there, you'll know us. And as I said, part of us is we provide advice on the regulatory side, planning, the listed buildings, one of the main aspects of that, any change within that as well. We are a major grants funder as well for heritage, and you'll know our conservation area regeneration schemes as well. So we have leverage in there that's looking towards investment in regeneration in urban areas as well. We obviously run the 330 sites on behalf of ministers and the schema delegation, and 60 of those are staff. So we get 5 million visitors through the door. That actually points to the underlying model that we've been given by ministers, where 60–70% of our income comes through those staff numbers as well. So we're very much, while we're supporting tourism, we're very much part of that attraction model, and we depend on that to a greater extent. In some areas as well as, and linked to that is our Historic Scotland members, over 200,000 of them as well, people that have signed up and are active parts of this, but obviously ones that we want to promote in the communities, the benefits of heritage and what it can do as well. We also host the databases, the inventories of Scotland as well for heritage, and that allows all manner of stuff from regulatory planning to researching your local community as well. So an amazing vast resource. And then some other areas that we're involved in is skills training as well, especially around the construction areas as well, large employer of masons within Scotland as well. So we're very huge in skills training, but that will also show through in how we're trying to promote skills pathways in tourism as well. So that's kind of general overview of what we're doing. So quite a lot of areas that we're involved in and we can bring to bear to this heritage tourism and place agenda. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of just what heritage does within the economy, and you see there it is a part of, you know, and a significant part of the economy. I mean, these figures are pre-COVID, but you know, there's over 60,000 jobs within Scotland that are related to the heritage aspect, and it does contribute that amount of money. It also has lots of volunteers as well, which has an economic impact as well. Heritage societies and others are involved in that, and more broadly it's feeding into, as I say in the last slide there, local employment, local businesses, inspiration for crafts, etc. as well, and the supporting of traditional skills. So in lots of ways heritage makes its way into the wider economy, but also into wider aspects of the tourism industry, whether that's as inspiration or as a vehicle to support businesses or organizations as well. So that's the sort of general context of our part and the heritage's part of the national economy and around tourism as well. Next slide, please. I've used just this just to show where heritage tourism and heritage sites, or historic environment sites, whatever you're going to call them, work within the system. They already make major parts of it. And I know if Caroline, I know, will probably have the figures better than I, but following on from landscape, I think heritage is the big draw and the big thing that pulls people in. And there's just some of the figures that show it up there as well. 4 out of 5 of those sites are heritage assets. And Knockart Castle obviously is one that, on behalf of ministers, is one of the mainstays in there. And that can be replicated across the rest of other parts of Scotland as well, where heritage shows really well. So heritage tourism is really successful. People want to come see sites, they want to sort of engage, they want to feel that tangible sense of history where it goes all the way back in all its multicolored glory within Scotland as well. So that's working really well, and it's a real draw, and that pulls people in. Or with another hat on, I lead on the international strategy for Scotland as well. And I know through that aspect where we promote with working with Scottish Government, again, it's one of the big key identifiers for Scotland abroad as well. So that's working really well. Next slide, please. And this is a point where it's not a question of it's not working well, but it is, as the slides say there, it is leading to problems. And this is stuff that we've seen over the last couple of years, and is more broadly about going into the countryside, enjoying stuff, but that has an effect on archaeological sites, on heritage sites and all the rest of it, especially ones that you may not appreciate are the big ones with castles, sensitive prehistoric monuments that don't take mountain bikes going over the top of them as well. And then it's part of the wider, people want to come and see these sites, and that's got impacts on overstretched infrastructure, impacts on how people feel in areas as well. So it does lead to those sorts of problems, which have got all sorts of other things, and that's stuff that we ourselves in the Historic Environment School and the rest of the historic environment is very aware of, and we need to start to work to address that. And I think the last couple of years have shown that up as well. But that is aspects that have always been there, and pressure on environmental monuments, which heritage, historic environment is part, is a key part of the sort of approaches that we're trying to develop, as I'll show later on, towards sustainability of these resources. So that's where it's really leading to quite a lot of problems of just lots of people coming on the sites, enjoying them. Next slide, please. And that has pressure on heritage assets in all sorts of other ways as well. I put two slides up there, one of which is sort of Edinburgh Castle, about the COVID signs, but also currently one of our monuments, Dundonald Castle, where we're working with a local community trust, the Dundonald Trust, to keep it open. And really, I wanted to show those slides up at the moment. Many of our sites, some of you know, are currently closed due to health and safety considerations as well. But also, it's just, this slide is about the numbers of people coming to our sites, the pressure to keep them open all the time. And the backdrop to this is costs have gone up, and we all know supply chains, etc., as well as climate change is an accelerant on monument sites, as they are on other sites as well. Wetter years, more growth, and they all have impacts on buildings and assets, but monuments are quite fragile too. These are buildings that aren't working in the way they were designed to, and keeping them as monuments is increasing high levels of investment, and there's sustainability around those issues that are coming up. And those ones aren't just come up in the last couple of years, they've been there with us, but it's the backdrop to the work that we're doing, along with health and safety regulations, etc., as well as there's a complex set of factors that are coming in that is becoming challenging to maintain sites, to keep sites. So this look on sustainability, etc., is resonating, how we're having to manage and keep open these sites, and that's shared by other operators as well, colleagues in National Trust as well. There's a common backdrop to us at the moment, and so we're starting to look very carefully into that under climate change and other areas as well. So that's the real pressure that's coming from the monuments themselves, and then you're linking to these wider assets, wider challenges that I put in the slide beforehand. So that's a lot of challenges to come in at the time, but I would say there's hopefully in the next couple of slides you see where the opportunities are arising, and for us to do things differently and a bit better than before. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to sort of flag this up as a sort of sustainable tourism approach, because in the description of it there from the World Tourism Organization is that sustainability model, the balancing the economic, social, environmental, and other assets. It depends on which model you want to use, the 5 capitals, 4 capitals. There's many ways of looking at this, but that increasingly is becoming the underlying ethos in which we're having to approach heritage assets, heritage attractions as well. So, and it's very much underpinning how we're having to start to work with those parts of the stakeholder, visitors, industry, balancing the environment, and the communities as well. And that capitals model, the 5 capitals, the 4 capitals model, that sustainability model is starting to drive and underpin an awful lot of the work that we are doing, and also other organizations, not only in the UK, but across the world as well. So that sort of sustainability model is driving things, and it will come out as responsible tourism or whatever the approach is, but underlying it all is the need to balance that. And that's the key aspect of which we're trying to sort of work on at the moment. Next slide, please. And what some of that means on the ground, and sort of the general principles really is to look at things in a much more interconnected way than we did before. And some of these things have been coming for the last 30, 40 years as those general sustainability principles have kind of entered in from the sort of days when it was World Bank and other major organizations as well. But for us, very much on the ground is the interconnectedness of natural and cultural heritage. That's almost becoming at one. It's very much there when we've got sites like our prehistoric monuments as well, but it's really seeing the context of where the sites are in and trying to achieve that balance and working together. The other area which I know will be part of the tourism industry and other areas is looking really at life cycles, sustainable procurement, circular economy principles as well, and having to get that right. And that's the point where we start to work with a lot of stakeholders and other partners in the tourism industry and below to try and get that working right. One of the principles of environmental sustainability and managing environmental resources is just to try not to stop people visiting sites, although at times we may need to do that to allow time for a monument to repair or environmental area to come back again, but it's also to move people around, move them around to look at other sites as well as, but to reduce and minimize impact on sites. And that's increasingly coming up at many of our sites, most notably in Orkney and Skara Brae and the World Heritage Site there, where we're having to work closely with the council and other tourist operators, so we move people around in a much better way and trying to minimize the impact on monuments. But this is throughout a lot of monuments, and within inner city areas. Edinburgh is one where you really, we cannot sustain the numbers coming into areas as this. There's a lot of impact on them. So that's a very big principle how we're working as well. And finally, for me, one of the most important really is that getting that balance right. Tourist sites across the globe, which are heritage ones, we all have read in the news that Barcelona, Venice, etc., where it's too much now, and local communities are coming back with concerns as well. And you know, it's the Edinburgh and other sites are there already as well, and we're seeing that across the ground in our own properties and care across Scotland as well. And that's becoming increasingly part that, coming back again to the point on the balance aspect, is what's good for communities should work for tourists as well. And that's very much part of that. But it's also promoting what communities can do and show as part of their own local history. So our sites are part of a wider heritage that should be shown and generally sort of promoted to tourists as well. So those are quite key principles that we're starting to underpin an awful lot of our activities and approach on our sites, and working with others across the sector as well. Next slide, please. Now, ways that we're starting to do this is through some sort of policy angles as well. And the one I've picked out is community wealth building, because again, coming back to that local community element, this has got to work for people on the ground. And these sort of community wealth building approaches, I think, are really good ways of modelling how we're going to approach heritage, how they're run, where money's spent on them, and how really local communities and other stakeholders can provide greater roles in that, and where the benefit stays in it. You know, the money stays in the area, but also we promote assets as well. So across many of our properties, we're trying to work with local communities on seeing what are the areas that we can work on, where can local transport work better as well. So this community wealth building approach model is one that is increasingly, maybe not consciously, but we're seeking to sort of take into our own policies and approach as well, and hitting some of the principles behind that as well. So that's increasingly kind of a useful model in how we're approaching running our assets and addressing sort of how to meet the challenges I talked of before, but really ensuring that we build on opportunities and maximize those opportunities, especially for local communities. Next slide, please. And just to talk a little bit about some of the areas where we're starting to look at this sort of stuff. The first one I wanted to show up is Doune Castle, and I've called it a campus approach. And Doune Castle, you know very well. For those of a certain age, you'll know it as the Monty Python one. For those of a different age, you'll know it as Outlander. And it's partly because of Outlander, we're facing an awful lot of issues around there, which spill over into impacts in the local community from all the people who want to come and see it. And that's the real problem there, is moving people around, and so they take advantage of seeing the whole of Doune, and we're not concentrated on areas as well, really. And our approach there is, as a sort of the title says, is moving people around the whole area. So it's not really focusing on the asset itself, but all the services that are underpinning it, the landscape, access, transport. And some of you may have seen the other day, we through a grant through the Rural Tourism Initiative, we were able to put in a new bridge to that area, which actually really opens up the area to people move around in a much better way. But it's not just physical infrastructure, it's working with local communities, the local community council and others to really look at the area and how it can benefit them. And also beyond that is looking into arts and creative industries as well, where they can come on board as well. So that's where we talked about it, the campus approach of multiple people coming in, but really looking at how we can move people around, how people can access the area, but in its broadest extent, partly to minimize the impact on our monument, but also to maximize the opportunities where the community and Doune itself can benefit from all the people coming to visit the site. Next slide, please. And just in the context of that, because Doune sits within this is a program of works that we undertake at the moment, Monument Investment Plan, where we're looking at infrastructure, etc., around some of the key sites that many of you know will be big tourist areas, where we're having to look at these sorts of problems and look at where where infrastructure is requiring to be put in place, but also where there's significant issues with heritage fabric, etc. So we're developing a lot of monument investment plans for a range of our properties that will start to take in and embed some of these sustainability, community wealth building policies within that, but tangibly say how we're taking that forward as well. So that's the kind of framework that we're building on, lessons such as Doune, and developing into a much greater program for some of the sites we see before, because they're the main ones that provide some of the big areas for tourists come into areas, but that will move on throughout the whole of our estate in the years to come. Next slide, please. At Dundonald Castle, which is in Ayrshire, this is a different sort of type of model here as well, is where we're working with a local trust, the Dundonald Trust, a fantastic group of people, and they have taken over through an asset transfer what was a kind of visitor centre that was being built by the council next to the site. They've taken that over, and they work with us, and they in effect are our visitor operations side as well. But because they're a community group, they also run a host of other community engagement points within the village, and they're very much a community hub on that way. So that's a very specific partnership there, where it really works for us, but allows us to support a wider range of initiatives within the community at the moment. So that's the kind of partnership models that at some of our sites we really see as a great way forward to embed some of the principles and policy approaches that I was talking about earlier on. Next slide, please. Now, this isn't one of our properties actually, and in fact, actually, unfortunately, it's not there. As some of you may know, there was a fire to the site in the area, and I wanted to show up different ways of conceiving of heritage. This is a reconstruction of an Iron Age crannog, but we work with the Crannog Centre up at Lochte on primarily supporting some of the archaeological investigations in that, but working with other partners, the Council, Forestry Commission, the Museum Gallery Scotland, on supporting the use of this aspect of heritage, and its hands-on, and the ability for that to sort of bleed into other areas of environmental and other types of education as well, looking at sustainable uses of landscape and other models that then bleeds into those sorts of promoting that broader sustainability issues as well. For those that have been up there, in a really sort of enjoyable way as well. And at the moment, we're working with them on their plans as they're developing a new Cranach Centre and new centre across the other side of Loch Tay as well. So that's, I think, different ways where a different aspect of heritage can really work to get people into areas and to sort of educate on a broader range of issues than straightforwardly the historic environment areas that we'll be focused on as well. And that's really exciting point. But as colleagues will know, that's a real core for tourism in the areas. There's a big draw in the area as well. Next slide, please. I finally wanted to end up on one which was a bit more around place, but within towns as well. And this is work that we are doing with the Western Dumbartonshire Council, but also the Maritime Museum in Dumbarton as well. And this came out of issues around the interconnectedness of the monument, which on Dumbarton Castle as well, but with the rest of the town, and trying to pull in more visitors to the area as well. And not just visitors in a local sense, but also trying to see how we can pull in the types of visitors that are going all the way up to Loch Lomond as well. And that project is looking at sort of trying to promote a better overall cultural offer within the town, linking them together. The council have plans for buildings in there to be sort of museums, a multicultural hub, but showing the sort of the wealth and the strength of historic areas, the shipbuilding, the seaplanes, etc., that were part of Dumbarton's great industrial heritage, and linking it to modern festivals, etc., that go on in the green area in front of the governor's residence there as well. So that's a long-term programme and that we're working on in Western Dumbartonshire Council. But in terms of the work that we're doing where our monuments are in towns and cities, it's providing a model for us to work with others. And we're recently starting work with colleagues in Dunfermline. I think I saw Sunil there from Dunfermline Council, where we're working with the Council and the Church of Scotland to develop a very similar approach, the asset management of these areas, but really broadening it out into how we can work with other partners to get more visitors into the area, to develop these and bring economic growth in, but also to celebrate and promote areas that people may pass over or may not quite appreciate the fantastic heritage that's in the area. Next slide, please. I just wanted to kind of finish up with the last couple of slides of how we're kind of doing that and supporting that. And one of the big ways we're doing it, because of that strength in communities, is trying to develop a range of resources to come in and help communities, whether that's in volunteering, a forum to come and talk about your heritage and how you think it could work for you, and specific programs around support for that if you're engaged in economic activity, or you want advice on how to a better focus on your historic research of an area as well. So that's quite a hub that we're developing, and we're trying to sort of pull the organisation together so we can focus more and provide better support for communities and other organisations in promoting their heritage in its widest extent, but also where communities want to use heritage as a tourist, as a revenue source as well. So that's our work within that community areas as well. Next slide, please. So just a wee bit of summary, we can provide an awful lot of advice, and we think where the key areas are is funding advice. I've said we're a grant body as well to stimulate growth, as well as we can support an awful lot of investment. We've got that area to support communities in there as well as, but I think some of our big aspects are where we want to really promote heritage and our properties and care in those placemaking projects, to do stuff to promote them, but really to bring into account those aspects of sustainability as well, because key in that is, and we're very much focused on it, is net zero and those climate change targets that are quite challenging. We know we've got resources that are sensitive, and they are being, the investments required are quite high, especially within current climates as well, and we really need to work in partnership and work with communities, but in the models that we've sort of outlined, so that there's clear benefits and there's clear resources going to help communities on the ground, some of which are skills and others. So that's kind of in total sort of hopefully gives you a sense of some of the work that we're doing within that heritage and tourism area at the moment. It's a very challenging time to do it, but hopefully, as you see, as we're building on the opportunities to take that forward. And I've left a couple of slides at the end afterwards, just for those that can follow up on some of the work that we're doing, some of the sectors on that. So thanks very much for your time, and happy to take any questions. That's me, Kimberly.
Okay, thank you very much, George. That was very informative and an interesting way that you demonstrate community wealth building. So really, really good. I think in view of time, I'm going to move right to Caroline Warburton from Visit Scotland, and we'll capture all questions and answers at the end of the sessions today. So Caroline, just when you're ready, over to you.
Thanks very much, Kimberly. Just let me share my presentation. Give me a second. There we go. Kimberly, if you could tell me whether or not you can see that, that would be great.
Yes, you've started to share now. That's you.
Perfect.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you. I am one of the regional directors at Visit Scotland, and I have a regional remit, but I'm speaking to you today on behalf of Visit Scotland nationally, and hopefully I'll give you a bit of insight over not only what Visit Scotland is doing at the moment, but also perhaps some of the themes that are coming through really strongly, which might help in some of the work you're doing in your communities. So knowing that George was going to talk about heritage and tourism, I'm not going to specifically make that link between heritage and tourism, because I think George has done it really effectively. So I'm going to talk more broadly around approaches to responsible destinations, and the responsible word you'll hear me say a lot over the next 15 minutes, but also how important that is that we from the tourism side are able to support vibrant communities, which I know is something that you'll all be working away at. So by way of background, and I suspect that I probably don't need to tell many of you this, but just really to reinforce the importance of the visitor economy to the Scottish economy. And pre-COVID, it was one of the key sectors and one of the key growth sectors. And there are lots of facts and figures on this slide. However, I think probably one of the most important one was not only did it contribute economically to Scotland, but it also contributed socially as well, particularly through jobs. Almost 1 in 10 people pre-COVID were employed in the tourism and hospitality sector. So it really was a significant contributor. And in particular, it seemed to have almost a increased proportion of its impact was in rural areas and small towns, where it was a way of sustaining jobs and often sustaining other services as well. So visitors spend during the summer often sustained shops and other facilities during the winter when locals could benefit from them. So it was undoubtedly an important part of the Scottish economy. It was also, as you would expect, significantly hit by COVID. The timing was never going to be good, whatever time of the year this awful thing happened. However, just at the start of the season, when businesses had few reserves and were just starting to employ their staff for the season looking ahead, we went into lockdown, and the figures were catastrophic for some and have been incredibly serious for almost everybody else in the tourism sector. Going forwards, we've got higher fixed costs. We now have labour shortages, and a number of businesses have had to take on significantly more business debt as a result. However, saying that, the domestic market has really helped so many businesses get through a very difficult couple of years. But for those businesses that are dependent on international visitors, this is the market that still is yet to recover. And it's continuing to be very difficult for those businesses that were dependent on the international visitors. And Visit Britain are saying it could be 3, 4, even 5 years before international visitors are back at the pre-COVID 2019 level. And obviously we have the other factors of the geopolitical instability that we have at the moment as well, which is also having an impact on how confident people feel about travelling at the moment. And I really just wanted to put this slide up quickly. I won't dwell on it. It was really just to highlight that interconnectedness between a tourism business, and it doesn't have to be a hotel, with other services within a community. It's not only the businesses that they directly contract with, but it's also the plumbers, the lawyers, the accountants, the wedding planners, the florists. And this is why we use the term the visitor economy. So it is really a network, an ecosystem of businesses and services which are supporting the visitor economy. And so when the hotel was unable to operate in this example, it had an impact on all these other businesses as well. And I think COVID really did highlight that in many communities. So COVID has been dreadful, there's no question about that, but it has given us an opportunity to pause and have a think about how do we want tourism to be in Scotland. And the phrase that we are using increasingly is the term responsible tourism. And the responsible tourism phrase is really 20 years old. In fact, it's the 20th anniversary this year, and it came through a declaration that was made in Cape Town in 2002, which looked at the point of responsibility. So moving away from sustainability, which is a broad concept, our principles, responsible tourism is very much about everybody involved in tourism taking their own personal responsibility for how tourism is delivered. And George used the phrase already. It is about, if we make better places for people to live in, it will result in better places for people to visit. And that's very much the approach that we are now starting to take through everything that we do at Visit Scotland. And the examples I'm going to give you over the next few minutes will hopefully highlight that. So from a Visit Scotland perspective, we've been looking at what are those objectives that we feel will help move tourism to be as responsible as it can be. And we have 4 overall objectives. So the first one is around the transition, Scotland's transition to a low carbon economy. And that's our support for the Scottish Government targets of getting to net zero by 2045, I believe. We're also very focused on the fair work and inclusive growth agenda. So making sure that Scotland's tourism sector and those experiences are available to all. The importance of thriving communities, of making sure that tourism contributes to those communities. And again, as George says, that tourism does not take over, drive the wishes of a community, that it is the community that is in control. And lastly, looking at the protection of not only our natural heritage, but also our cultural heritage, which might be things such as intangible elements like food and drink, arts, music, culture, as well as obviously our history and our heritage. And sitting within that, I think also we're looking at the piece around visitor management, around what we've seen over the last couple of years with the huge volumes of people that have been wanting to access particularly natural sites, and how are we going to manage those issues to make sure that everybody who wants to have a holiday in Scotland is able to do that, but not at the expense of the communities of our nature or our heritage assets as well. So when we reflect on those 4 objectives, we've been looking at, what are the things that we as an organisation can do? What can we influence? What can we as an organisation take responsibility for? And we've settled on these 3 areas, and this is shaping our approach to how we're doing things. And I should perhaps add that there is a 4th element to this, and that is the internal activity. So that's Visit Scotland as an organisation. What can we do internally to reduce our carbon, etc., etc. And so we've got a big programme internally looking at all of that. And so the next few slides I'm going to shape around these 3 areas. So visitors, destinations, and the industry itself. So looking at our visitors, so how can we influence visitors to have a more responsible visit whilst they are here? And our approach to supporting the recovery through our own marketing has very much is using these principles to shape our own approach. So obviously we're wanting tourism to recover as quickly as it can, but not at the expense of the environment and our communities. So we're very conscious of encouraging people to have as responsible a holiday as they can, and you'll start to see that coming through in our messaging. The domestic market was important pre-COVID, but it is even more important. It really has sustained the tourism industry over the last couple of years, and we want to maintain that. We want to make sure that we can continue with our domestic market, that when they're not all going overseas back on holiday. As much as anything, they are local, they are loyal, but they also don't need to fly to get here. So from a carbon perspective, it's a really key area for us. We also recognise that the international market is important in terms of bringing funds and people into the country. So we're going to continue to raise awareness internationally, and also we're wanting to spread tourism across the year, so that it's not all coming in the summer, that people can come in winter, and that we're promoting all year round, so that it really does sustain communities throughout the year. So from a marketing perspective, we launched our global campaign, Scotland is Calling, at the end in autumn last year. And this was very much aimed at reminding people that we are here, that we're calling them to come and visit. And it was a digital campaign, and one that we could turn on and turn off depending on guidelines at the time. And within this, we have also incorporated a responsible tourism message, particularly for our UK visitors, but latterly to also internationally. And you'll see on some of the images on the left that we've got a lot of information available on VisitScotland.com on our consumer site, which is around how to interact with local communities, how to respect the landscape, how to travel sustainably, and really trying to remind people that they're very welcome in Scotland, but they're also a guest in Scotland as well. And we hope that they will look after it as much as we want to look after it ourselves. On the right-hand side, there are some examples of some of the partnership activity that was done, particularly over the last summer. And this was really in response to some of the visitor management issues, which George mentioned previously, in terms of the sheer volume of people that were wanting to access the sites. And there are lots of organisations that were trying to get messages out around, please take your litter home, please park considerately, etc. So a visitor management group was formed at national level, and within the marketing and education stream, which Visit Scotland was leading on, we really pulled together not necessarily one campaign across the partners, but really an alignment of the messages. And we used the respect, protect, enjoy message. And it's been really effective. The results have been incredibly positive, just getting consistency out to all the different markets that we're trying to speak to, and getting that alignment. And we will be continuing with that this year. This month, in fact, I think it might have even been last week, we launched phase 2 of Scotland is Calling. So this is for the season coming up. And we've been listening to what we've been hearing in terms of the customer, and we've adjusted the campaign slightly. So it's still called Scotland is Calling, but we really are tugging on those emotional heartstrings, because we're finding that people are putting their money where their mood is. So we're trying to get that emotional connection between Scotland and the people who are looking to visit, but we're also making sure that we're promoting those responsible and personal experiences that people can get when they come and visit. But it's not all about big global campaigns. We are also looking at other opportunities and ways in which we can move people around the country. And I just wanted to highlight Scotland's UNESCO Trail. So this is a world first. and it's where Scotland has brought together 13 UNESCO sites that we have in Scotland into one place. Although it's not a trail in terms of people ticking them off, we hope that it shows the diversity of the heritage, both natural and cultural, that we have here in Scotland, which really is world class. And this obviously involves a lot of towns and places across the country. So I put all the links on the slides, and you can have a look further afterwards. So that's very much about looking to our visitors. How do we communicate with our visitors? But what about the place? So what about our destinations? And there's a number of initiatives that we've been involved with recently. Through the recovery funding that has come through from Scottish Government, we've been administering the Destination and Sector Marketing Fund. So this was a fund open to destination groups and sector groups around the country who could apply for marketing over autumn, winter and into spring, really to try and help stimulate and remind people to come on holiday, to try and help sustain communities and the tourism sector over the autumn winter period. And we've just been able to provide a top up to these groups in order to keep them, move them forwards into spring, which has just been fantastic. And you can see some examples of some of the communities, but also some of the campaigns that have been supported through this. It's been influencer activity on the left-hand side. There have been new trails that have been created, such as the one here in Paisley, and the opportunity to promote those. And there have been videos and paid advertising as well. So a real opportunity which really on the ground we've been able to support communities such as Fort William, Ballater, Stranraer, a real host of places. The other area where we've been supporting is around the destination net zero, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But one element of that has been looking at a climate action planning pilot, which we've been running with 3 locations, one of which is the tourism bid in Inverness, and also the destination organisation in the Outer Hebrides and Glasgow as a city. So this is really, we know that so many of the destinations are looking to demonstrate and to shape and to guide how do they as a destination really minimize their impact on the environment and maximize the opportunities to have a positive impact on the climate. And so we've been, I think the word is perhaps reassured. We thought we were a long way behind, but I really don't think we are. I think we're all around the world feeling our way through this. So we've got these 3 organisations going through a process which finishes at the end of this month. So that's next week. And we have a webinar with which all destinations are welcome to join to see what they've learnt and what we can do to take that one forwards. We also, for the last few years, have been running the Rural Tourism Infrastructure Fund. So this is funding from Scottish Government, which we administer, which is specifically aimed at the rural tourism infrastructure elements of things, many of which were struggling due to too many visitors and perhaps the infrastructure was not fit for purpose. So this is continuing, and a number of the local authorities are also now working on tourism infrastructure plans for their rural areas to try and look strategically at what infrastructure they need, whether that's around motorhomes, whether it's around car parking, whether it's around footpaths, whether it's around litter bins, and of course toilets. So there's some examples on the screen here. And it would be very remiss of me not to talk about events and festivals as well. So Events Scotland sits within Visit Scotland as our events directorate, and there's been a huge amount of support, both funding as well as advice over the last couple of years to the events and festival sector, which has been absolutely decimated by the pandemic. But we are rebuilding that sector along with them. And I just wanted to flag Unboxed, which is creativity in the UK. This is a UK-wide festival of the arts, which was launched in Paisley last week, I do believe, with the first of the arts projects, which is called About Us. And the Scotland project is called Dandelion, and it's all around grow your own. So if you're interested in finding out more about Unboxed or the Dandelion Project, then just Google them and you can find out more. And obviously happy to provide any more information, but a real successful program in the arts. We also have our themed years. So these are a series of years with a theme. And in 2022, we have the year of stories. So this is an opportunity to focus on stories. Last year was the year of coasts and waters, and there's information available on how communities and groups and events can get involved with the year of stories, whether it's through social media and using the hashtag, whether it's through using the logo and letting us know and being part of our partner program. But there's lots of opportunities there for communities to get involved. And finally, and I realise I'm probably running over time, so my apologies, is just to have a quick look at what we're doing to support the industry itself. So I mentioned the destination net zero side of things, and there's a range of activity that is being developed at the moment, but perhaps most relevant is the projects which are coming up again through recovery funding through Scottish Government, is that there is support around EV charge points installation and around sustainable certification. So the likes of green business and green tourism, where businesses are wanting to get a certification, accreditation for the work they're doing to reduce their impact on the environment. And there'll be details of those coming out in the next few weeks. The other area where there will be, there has been for a while, but there will be renewed interest and profile is around inclusive tourism. So this is really looking at how do we ensure that everybody has the opportunity to have a holiday and a break. And there's a host of resources available on our industry website, which is VisitScotland.org, around how businesses can access this market, how they can attract this market, and how they can make sure that their own facilities and their own services are as available to as broad a range of people as possible. And the image there on the right, which says accessibility guides, is probably the key one that I would flag to. It's a free tool for businesses, attractions, places to develop their own accessibility statement, which really is step one if people are looking to access this particular loyal market, I should add. And then lastly, obviously, we do a lot of support for businesses themselves. And this is probably the mainstay of the support that we've done over the many years that Visit Scotland as a tourist board has been in existence, in addition to the marketing that we do as well. So in terms of supporting businesses, we're able to provide free listings on VisitScotland.com on our website. We run the quality assurance scheme. We have a digital media library where anybody can access images that they might want to use to help promote their destination or Scotland in general. We have an excellent programme of webinars, either live or pre-recorded, around digital skills, which really is key to businesses being found, is that to make sure that they are accessible online. And we also have obviously lots of networks where we're trying to connect businesses and other partners through either closed Facebook pages or through our own communications, be that our e-newsletter and online through social media. So I guess going back to the beginning in terms of how are we able to support responsible destinations and also vibrant communities? And it really sums it up here. So obviously we can provide marketing support for destinations, and we will work with destinations to help them to do that. We also provide strategic advice on destination plans and strategies, and also on key developments as well. So we can always pull us in, and that's part of my role as a regional director. And we're here to partner with destinations. So if you want to have a conversation with us, then we'd be delighted to speak to you. We also provide direct and online advice for tourism businesses and tourism enterprises. We can provide access to the market, whether that's in the UK or whether it's overseas. But there's a massive amount of information that we have available on VisitScotland.org, whether you're looking for trends, insights, but also on some of the themes that I've mentioned today around inclusive, responsible tourism, etc. And that, Kimberly, is me. I'm sorry if I've run over slightly.
Thank you very much, Caroline. That was excellent. I really enjoyed that. I actually began to get lost in the marketing campaign, which is very compelling indeed, and love the fact that it's very customer centric. You've covered off a lot there in terms of climate action, place-based approach, responsible tourism and events and supporting the local economy. So excellent, very good. I think before we move on to Scotland Loves Local and Nicola and Jennifer today, we've got a few questions, so we'll just take a break. So George, if you're available and Caroline's there, we'll just take a few questions. But before I do, I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that both Historic Environment Scotland and Visit Scotland are firm supporters of the Scotland Loves Local campaign. And it's great to see, George, that the summer events programme is returning again this year after a long 2 years of a pandemic. So that's great news. And a great opportunity in terms of how we can weave that into some of that. And Caroline, again, I'm really glad that you put up the Year of the Stories in 2022, because there's a great way of, bringing some of the narrative out there in terms of the work that we're doing at STP. So thank you very much for that. The first question that we've had, George, this is for yourself, is from Joanne Boyle, and she's interested to understand if Historic Environment Scotland has a sustainable transport policy to reduce congestion and emissions and return to a better environment for monumental sites.
Well, thanks for that, Kimberly, and thanks, Joanne, for that. Yes, in one sense, we under our climate change action plan, which I would encourage, there's a link on the slide there, and I encourage you to have a look in there, because you'll see our overall climate action plan as well. Within the transport one, yes, there are areas that we need to work on, although that one very much feeds into working with partners as well on. It's not something that we can address in itself as an organization as well, but it's a key part of that, because it comes back to, I think Caroline was putting up points there, moving people around, minimizing the impact on it. So it's forming part of our climate action plan, but it's obviously recognizing there's a lot of others involved in that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, George. Caroline, is there anything you'd like to add on that, or did George cover that for you?
No, I think we're all trying to encourage people to use public transport where they can. There's an increasing amount of bike hire facilities in a lot of the cities now, and the growing interest in e-bikes. So certainly from the positioning that we're talking about from our marketing side, where we can, we will try and promote those public transport and those active travel opportunities. So I think we're all focused in on trying to move people out of their cars and onto other forms of transport. So yeah, I think we're all pointing in the same direction. We just need to get visitors to do it.
Thank you, Caroline. Another question for yourself, George. Will Historic Environment Scotland provide support to areas whose heritage is not immediately apparent? And that's from David Main.
Thanks, David, for that. And it is a good point. And I wouldn't say it's maybe not immediately apparent. It's just like we need to promote more. And I think that comes back again to working with communities and people on the ground for, identifying different types of heritage, recognizing it. For instance, within Central Belt areas, industrial heritage isn't felt as a great area, but actually that's a source of real pride in an area. And I think it's emphasizing those areas and working with local people on the ground as well. So I think it's very, very contextual and situational, but yes, absolutely broadly. We're part of here working with local authorities, researchers and others to really promote heritage in its own self for that, but also where we can see it as an asset working for people on the ground.
That's great. Oh, thank you very much both. So in view of time, I'm going to hand over to Nicola Johnston and Jennifer Caswell, who are going to talk through the Scotland Loves Local. We will have a chance for more questions and answers at the end of the session, but I'll hand over to Nicola.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Kimberly. Let me just get this presentation up and ready to share. Are you able to see this on the screen at the moment?
Not yet, but we'll keep watching and give you the heads up when it appears.
Let's see, here we go. This should be us now.
That's you, that's us.
Great, thank you. Is that okay? And are you able to see everything there?
Yes, we are. That's great. So you're good to go. Thank you, Nicola.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to join me today. Caroline, Phil and all of the team at STP. It's great to be able to share information on the Scotland Loves Local gift card with you. My name's Nicola Johnston. I'm the project lead at MyConnect. For those of you who do not know who MyConnects are, we are the trusted delivery partner of the Scotland Loves Local gift card, and have been operating in town and city gift cards for 15 years across the UK and internationally. The gift cards that we provide are able to lock in spending to the local economy, which was a real key consideration and driver for us being the delivery partner for the gift card for the Scottish Government's recovery message. Today, hopefully following both Caroline and George's presentations, you will be able to see where the gift card can be used as a tool to support culture and heritage businesses and actually drive footfall and spend to these areas of the economy, as well as the beneficial impact it has on the wider business economy and community members. Just a quick view over the agenda here. So I'll give you an overview of the gift card, how it can be used to maximise success for town and cities, speak about the bigger picture similar to the visitor economy slide and infographic that Caroline shared, and then show you how the gift card can be used to activate places and stimulate the economy through community disbursement, employee rewards, sector specific support as well. And then we'll pass over to Jennifer Caswell at Dundee City Council to share the fantastic work that they are doing. So Scotland Loves Local gift card ensures money stays in local for longer. It can actually boost local businesses, provide economic stimulus, protect jobs and make communities stronger in the aftermath of 2019. The Scotland Loves Local gift card has been supported and spearheaded by the Scottish Government. Launching in 2021, the gift card is one pillar under the Scottish Government's recovery message, Love Local. There are 32 fully supported gift card programmes covering each local authority area within Scotland, and the cardholder and merchant support is provided by MyConnects. The Scottish Government have significantly funded the gift card programme, providing 1 year of a fully funded programme for each local authority area, along with 5,000 gift cards to kickstart their programme and access to a 5-year fund to support its growth and development. There is free access to businesses across Scotland to register. There is no fee to register for the business. There is also no additional fee to accept the gift card. We operate on a MasterCard platform, and the gift card would occur no additional charges other than the standard MasterCard fee. At the moment, we have over 4,000 merchants registered to the gift card programme. In fact, just overnight, we've had 300 new businesses register. And we're really starting to see a strong mix between national businesses and independent businesses. The gift cards are sold through the Scotland Loves Local Scotland Gifts Local website, and people can go on there to purchase their gift card, also look at how the gift card can be redeemed within stores. There's a directory of every registered business, so you can go on there and have a browse at where the gift card can be redeemed. We're also seeing the gift card being utilised at the moment and having multiple conversations about the gift card being used to distribute funding such as the Economic Recovery Fund, and also sector-specific funding that can help stimulate that specific sector of the economy. So why maximise success? There's some really key figures here that just show how a gift card programme and a gift card for an area can really help to stimulate the economy, to move things forward. 43% of gift card recipients made a one-off purchase in a brand new store, 22% of them become regular customers. And then on average, and I think this is such a key one, on average 65% of people spend more than the value of the gift card. when they go out to spend their gift card. We really encourage, as part of the Scotland Loves Local gift card programme, that the businesses that are registered to the programme have a premise on, or have a fixed premise within the high street or within the town or city. We do take online businesses, but really we're looking at online, we're looking at stores who have a fixed premise and just have an online store as well. We're really looking to drive people back into the towns and cities with this product. And we really see the impact of that trickle across the economy when people are using their car to come in, when they're parking, when they're using buses to come in, the trains, etc. And then maybe going for coffee after their purchase lunch. So just in using the gift card alone, we see the 65% overspend, but there's a significant trickle of benefits to the economy across the board. And then not only that, but actually 50% of people who receive a gift card actually redeem it within 1 month of that time. So the money goes instantly to the businesses. So it's a really great way to kickstart the economy and drive footfall and spend into our local towns and cities. The Scotland Loves Local gift card can also be used to support low-income households, and it can be used as a reward or an incentive to be able to drive people, to encourage people back to the workplace, to welcome them back to the workplace, to be used as incentives, competitions for businesses, and then also to provide specific sector support, which is something I'll share a case study on later today. We've really seen it being used to drive footfall and spend within the hospitality, retail, tourism, culture and leisure industries, and in general really drive that footfall across the towns and cities. So the local business partnerships can significantly reward their consumers for shopping. So looking at the business partnerships, the national operators and key stakeholders, there's various ways in which these organisations and memberships and businesses can actually help support their local economy, support their local community members, and drive footfall and spend and get the economy revitalised and moving again. So for example, you'll see on the screen some of the ideas of how businesses that we've already engaged with and working with are helping to drive footfall and spend, such as buy one, get one free, discounted Scotland Loves Local cards, and money back for spending. National operators we're seeing joining the programme en masse. We've got various convenience stores, retailers, supermarkets, all seeing the benefit and how this can help their local economy, help their local community members as well, especially when the cards are being used to distribute funding. So all of their national operators are joining the programme, voicing their support, using it for incentives, rewards, competitions for staff, and also accessing opportunities where it can be a funding channel. And the same goes for our key stakeholders. HES have also joined the programme nationally, and we've got significant support from Visit Scotland, so thank you to you both for that. But we've had some significant support from Visit Scotland on engaging with the businesses and accessing that side of the economy, really from them joining the programme, voicing their support, sharing the message to their networks, and then utilising the gift card programme internally for incentives, rewards, competitions, etc. And then really from our stakeholders using the gift card to distribute funds that they receive, whether that be for to drive footfall to the leisure businesses, to the tourism economy, etc., where there's opportunities, utilising the gift card to get that money out into the communities. Quite similar to the slide that Caroline showcased on the visitors economy. I won't spend too much time on this one, but it's really, I guess, a Sims image of how the gift card can actually drive footfall across the wider economy. It's all about going into one business, but actually utilising the public transport service to get there, going for lunch, and that trickling effect across the wider economy. When employers give the gift card as an incentive or reward, it's getting them out into the area. This could be used for Christmas party gifts if they're not able to do Christmas parties, and really it just drives that stimulus and footfall across a town and city. So looking at how the gift card can be utilised for community disbursement. I can share afterwards some links to case studies. East Ayrshire Council have done this exceptionally well. It's all about giving people the opportunity to receive funding for whichever means, and being able to spend that funding with dignity. For example, where we've seen families in receipt of free school meal vouchers or school uniform grants, etc. A big one at the moment, and very topical, the Heat or Eat crisis. When this funding is being distributed, it can be done with dignity through the gift card, and that's key conversations that we're having at the moment with various stakeholders and partners. And also, by doing this in a very discreet way of actually allowing the money to trickle through, we also have a collection of youths who are in receipt of the gift card, looking at the Young Scot National Entitlement Card. So there's lots of ways in which the gift card can be used to really get that money out into the local economy and drive that footfall and spend. Again, looking at our employee rewards. So this is a really key way to just have that ecosystem generating and driving the economy forward. Where we've had national operators join, we always very much encourage them to consider the gift card as a way to reward employees. Look at incentives, long service awards, which is very popular in East Lothian for their East Lothian Council, and that's something that they use it very much for, and creates its own little ecosystem of spending where they're actually part of the gift card programme, providing it to their staff members, and then they're going back out and helping to support the local communities. Sector-specific support, the gift card can really be utilised to drive spend into focused sectors, whether that be culture, tourism, hospitality, leisure, retail. And again, where there's funding channels coming out, the money can be distributed through the gift card, whether it be through coupons, whether it be on a 50% off the purchase if you visit these specific venues, etc. There's lots of key drivers and ways in which we can use the gift card to really drive that spend within specific sectors. And I'm going to share a little case study. So fingers crossed this video works, because it's a great example of that sector-specific support taking place. Now I'm just going to speed it on ever so slightly, just because of timing, but we won't tell them. And we'll just start here.
Island gift card. So now let's dive into the details. We put together a quick executive summary just to show a little bit about what this gift card program meant to Prince Edward Island. So on beautiful PEI, we have 165,000 people. That's our population here. To date, since we launched the gift card in 2020, we've received over 4.8 million in government funding. Now, this government funding was given to help support economic development, especially during the pandemic times. Now, to date, over the last 18 months, we've sold over 100,000 Canada Food Island gift cards. Now, these were used to be leveraged as incentives for tourist accommodations, as well as consumer sales. And to date, in our Canada Food Island directory, we have over 335 local merchants who have signed up to participate in our program. And what we love about this program is that it really is a foolproof way to ensure that consumers are supporting and buying local. So we know that when people are using our Canada Food Island gift card, whether it's for local food, restaurants, accommodations, or even tourism experiences, that the money is staying local here on Prince Edward Island. Now, the top 3 benefits that we had with the Canada Food Island gift card was increasing incremental consumer spend. And we've heard anecdotally from some of our retailers that it could increase the consumer spend up to about 25%. It also increases Prince Edward Island, Canada's Food Island brand awareness and engagement with our consumer. And it also helped with the COVID-19 recovery to help ensure that we're supporting local businesses here. Now, given our great success that we've seen with this card, our future plans are to continue to have government support for the expansion of the Canada Food Island gift card program, just given the success that we've seen. Now, here's a couple of examples of the campaigns that we were able to run. So one monumental campaign was incentives for tourist accommodations. So our objective was to leverage government funding to help drive accommodations during the tourist shoulder seasons. We were hoping for a target of about 75% redemption rate, and throughout our programming, we've seen the actual redemption rate be on average about 80%. So the first campaign you can see on the screen here is called Stay and Savor. This is where we issued 5,000 gift cards, and this is where tourist operators were able to purchase that gift card at a 40% off discount. Now, that discount was funded by the government, so the government did pay that 40% and provided us with $100,000 to deliver this program. And then with the tourist operators, they took that gift card and then they created their own customized experiences and packages that they could then pass on to their consumers. With any new program that you're going to launch, we had a lot of learnings of what worked well and how we can continuously improve. So the campaign improved and it changed to best meet the needs of our consumers and best support our tourist operators. So we evolved that campaign to be a stay to and get $100 Canada Food Island gift card. Now, we ran this program in spring 2021. We also ran this program again in fall 2021, and we're gearing up to run this program in spring 2022 this year, to help drive that incremental bookings in our shoulder season before we gear up to our peak season. Now, this was, as I mentioned, when the consumer stays 2 nights, they get a free $100 Canada Food Island gift card to use while they're here. It was 100% funded by the government. So to date, we had 28,000 cards in circulation. We received over $2.8 million in government funding. And we did see that this did drive incremental bookings during the shoulder season with an 80% redemption rate using that gift card while they were here on their stay. As mentioned, we also did some promotions to help increase consumer spending. So we did 20% off retail sales. These cards were available at select retailers across the island, and we've leveraged over 4 successful campaigns throughout the year. We targeted times where consumer might be holding on to some of that spending, so we targeted it during back to school season. Gifting season was another important time for us as well. So the consumer spent $40 and they actually got a $50 gift card. This was very popular during gift giving seasons because you could boost your holiday spending, which you spend less and give more. And it was great that they could be redeemed at over 300 local merchants across this wonderful island. And we followed this up with redemption campaigns. Now, the redemption campaigns, we used influencers and local food advocates where they actually showcased using Instagram Reels and stories and Facebook and blogs of how they were enjoying Canada's Food Island gift card to go out and dine, experience a tourism culinary destination experience, or stay at accommodations, which we found very successful. The redemption rate of our cards have been about 57%, which is pretty good for a gift card once we have them on sale, following up with the redemption campaign. We also use the Canada Food Island gift card to help increase brand awareness and engagement that Prince Edward Island truly is Canada's food island and a premier culinary destination. Now, as I mentioned before, we use these redemption campaigns using local food advocates and influencers so we can help expand our reach, increasing our brand awareness and also engaging with their followers as well. It promoted Prince Edward Island as Canada's food island as being a premier culinary destination, and it was also leveraged in social media marketing as well. So there you have it. It's a snapshot of how we've used Canada's Food Island, Prince Edward Island's gift card to work for us to help stimulate economic development supported by local.
So hopefully that really shows and showcases how the gift card can be used along as a funding channel and really stimulate various sectors within the economy to put that laser beam focus onto stimulating them, boosting them, driving the footfall through various opportunities. And with that, I've just shared some fantastic information about this Dundee City Council and what they have been doing, joining their leisure and culture businesses. We've had multiple of them join the Dundee gift card programme. It's seen a significant driver to spend across Dundee, and some great quotes on the screen here. And with that, I will hand over to Jennifer Caswell from Dundee City Council.
Hi there. Apologies, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you today. I'm just going to be talking through some of the activity that we've been doing around the Scotland Loves Local gift card. We've been trying to link together two activities that we've been developing to support local businesses. So we already had created a brand called Love Dundee Local, and that was an e-commerce app which we had launched during lockdown, but we'd had a bit of difficulty because businesses obviously were in survival mode. So actually the process of trying to get them onboarded proved to be quite challenging. So we hadn't been as successful with that as we would have liked at the point where Nicola approached us about, and Scotland's Town partnership around the Scotland Loves Local business card, gift card. What we saw that as an opportunity was to try and bring the two concepts together and add value to each. We applied for funding through Dundee and Angus Chamber of Commerce. We worked with one of our local partners and thought who was in a good position to go out to businesses and talk to them about this. And decided that the Chamber was a really good option for us here in Dundee. They're well respected and well known by all the local businesses and city centre businesses especially. So we had a discussion with them around how could we work together to help develop the Dundee Loves Local brand, but also the gift card, and how could the two work and support each other. We've recently, I'm pleased to say, just the Chamber have recruited what we're calling a support local business ambassador. So this person part-time is going to be going out and around all the businesses to speak about the two projects that we have, and whilst getting people onboarded to the gift card, also talk to them about the e-commerce opportunity that app provides and vice versa. We've also just started discussions with one of our local tech companies around how we could link that into the delivery mechanism as well. So, you know, obviously we want people to come into the city centre, but sometimes there is an opportunity for city centre businesses if they can deliver out with their area as well. So looking at that as well. Nicola's just said we're delighted that our leisure and culture facilities are now onboarded for the gift card, and we think that as we see the success of that, we'll be able to get more of our cultural assets and tourism assets to join the gift card scheme. As I say, the challenge over the last 12 to 24 months with businesses has been talking to them about anything that wasn't around survival, and you know, even the idea that these things could help them. We found that a lot of businesses just couldn't make that step. They did need, and I think will be proved right around this, they just needed that helping hand to take them through. So whilst we had somebody from the Chamber going out to them and saying, these opportunities exist, they were saying, sounds fantastic, totally up for it. We found that they didn't actually do that last step that would take them to the point where they were actually benefiting from being part of these two opportunities. So that's the opportunity that we now have with the Support Local Business Ambassador. I've been in discussion and we've been in discussion within the council with a number of departments to see how we can use it as a dispersal opportunity for funds. So I think we're in the process of buying 2,000 gift cards for our health and social care partnerships, so that they can upload with the value of £10 for all their employees as a thank you, so that they can buy cups of coffee, etc., for their work over the last 24 months. I've also just started discussion with our finance department around how we can use it for holiday school meals and school clothing as an opportunity to destigmatise some of these schemes, but also it may well help our finance department in the dispersal of these funds. So it's a great opportunity as well. So where are we now? I think we've got over 100 businesses onboarded. We have ran one marketing campaign, and we're about to look at creating a new marketing plan going forward. We've had our city centre ambassadors out distributing the window stickers for the businesses that are involved. We've got banners throughout the city that are branded support local, so eat, play, shop and support local. We've had a radio campaign. We're about to use social media, and Mother's Day is an opportunity. I think there's been some posts out this week about the gift card and the opportunity to buy your mother a gift card, so we don't miss an opportunity. Yeah, and I think the next thing that I want to do is talk to our sustainability team to see how we can work with them around the whole sustainability aspect of the gift card and the e-commerce element that we're looking to add together. So I really think that we're at the start of a journey. We can see the potential. We've now got feet on the ground, if you like, to help us work with the businesses to drive this forward. So it's I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to see what we can do whilst we have the funding to really embed this in our local communities, you know, the city centre and our district centres, and ensure that we're supporting local businesses. I think that's probably all I want to say at this stage, but if anybody has got any questions or learnings that they want, I can certainly put them in touch with the right people within my organisation.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. That was really, really helpful and really informative. It's great to hear from a local authority and just hearing just how you put the support and the emphasis behind it. And I really love the way that you've got this local ambassador collaborating with the chamber and just showing the sum of all the parts. So excellent. And Nicola, thank you very much to yourself today with your presentation. That was really helpful. We were able to share a cross-sector support, a good case study there to share. I would suggest that perhaps we may share the South Ayrshire and the East Ayrshire case studies as well, because they tap into the community wealth building piece that George spoke about, and also reflect on some of the kind of key points that Caroline was speaking about. I think in conscious just of time today, I would just like to thank everybody for their time today. It's been an excellent session, lots of stuff coming through there that's really relevant to all of our journeys going forward, particularly as we look to drive the localism agenda, we drive local economic growth, we appeal for responsibility and look towards sustainability. Caroline, George and Nicola have demonstrated that in each of these, their own capacity. And I really hope that this session has helped to provide context as well as highlighting initiatives that you can engage with, and how the heritage and tourism sector help echo the importance of a place-based perspective. So again, on behalf of all of us at STP and the speakers, I'd just like to thank you for your time. You will receive a Q&A. Sort of massive apologies that we have run out of time and we can't do any more questions, but we will get those sent out to you along with a copy of this webinar today. So thank you very much and have a great day.